Hey everyone! This is a quick reminder to subscribe and hit that like button. It lets me know that you are enjoying my content. Also, feel free to drop your suggestions for future stories in the comments below. Thank you for listening, and let's dive right in. I used to have a life, a big one, the kind with skyline views, artisanal coffee with oat milk, and a jam-packed Google Calendar color-coded like a rainbow threw up on it. I had meetings, deadlines, coworkers who said things like pivot and circle back without irony. My LinkedIn profile was obnoxious. I wore heels that made my feet scream. I lived in Chicago and I loved it, or at least I told myself I did. Then my mom died. Just like that, my life shrank, folded in on itself. A sudden, brutal kind of quiet. So now I'm here. Back in Whitetail Ridge, Illinois, a town that smells like wet grass and disappointment. The kind of place where the streetlights buzz louder than the traffic, where old ladies still hand out butterscotch candies in church, and everyone knows who you were in high school, whether you want them to or not. I inherited her house, her dead plants, her two-small bed with the floral comforter that smells like lavender and ghosts, and I got a job at WTRX 1066 FM, the local radio station. Night shift, of course, because no one else wanted it. Not really a surprise. The station's practically a relic, a dusty shrine to long-dead DJs and warped vinyl records. But honestly, I liked it. It was quiet, mindless, lonely in the kind of way that feel like a weighted blanket. No one to impress. No one asking about my 5-year plan. Just me, the static, and a ghost of a town that hadn't realized it was already dead. I remember my first night like someone had branded it onto my memory with a cattle iron. I pulled into the gravel lot behind the station, headlights bouncing off peeling brick and a crooked antenna that looked like it might topple over if someone sneezed. The on air sign buzzed faintly in the window, flickering like it needed a nicotine patch. I killed the engine, but didn't get out right away. Just sat there, listening to the tick-tick of the cooling engine and thinking, what the hell am I doing here? Inside, the smell hit me first. Dust. Burnt coffee. That low ozone hum of electronics that haven't been updated since Y2K. The walls were plastered with fading posters, Led Zeppelin, Joni Mitchell, some band called Crimson Rooster that I swear no one outside this county has ever heard of. And that's where I met Brandon. He looked like the human embodiment of the building. Grizzly beard, support local vinyl t-shirt, a travel mug welded to his hand. He didn't smile much, but he didn't have to. There was something settled about him. Like he'd made peace with the station sucking out his soul one night shift at a time. Hey, Eliza, right? He said, flipping through a clipboard like it owed him money. That's me, I said, trying not to look like I'd been contemplating turning around and driving back to Chicago. Cool, I'll show you the ropes. He walked me through the booth, pointing at sliders, dials, and buttons I was mostly sure I wouldn't mess up. The equipment looked like it had survived at least 2 presidential administrations, and maybe a minor fire. I scribbled notes on a sticky pad, and nodded like I wasn't sweating bullets under my hoodie. Then he showed me the archives room, aisles of dusty shelves stacked with vinyl records, organized by decade, genre, and what I can only describe as chaos theory. And finally, the break room, which was less a room and more a janitor's closet with a microwave. The vending machine had exactly 4 options, 3 of which were expired. I made a mental note to bring snacks unless I wanted to die by decade-old Funyuns. We wrapped up around 11:45. Brandon drained the last of his coffee and grabbed his flannel from a hook by the door. I was halfway back to the booth when he stopped in the doorway, the clipboard gone, his voice suddenly lower. Still, like the air had gotten heavier. Oh, one last thing, he said, eyes finally locking on mine. There's a segment we run between midnight and 2. It's called Midnight Stories. Locals call in with weird tales, ghosts, aliens, shadow people. Sometimes it's just drunk farmers with nothing better to do. I nodded. Sure, sounds fun. He didn't smile. If a guy calls himself the Midnight Man, you let him talk. That gave me pause. Okay, don't interrupt him, don't hang up. Don't try to skip the story, just let him finish. Why? He exhaled, the kind of sigh that felt older than him. Because you want to go home in the morning, right? Then he left. I sat down in the squeaky chair, adjusted the 2 loose headphones, and stared at the microphone like it might bite me. I flicked on the switch. The on-air sign glowed steady. WTRX 106.6, I said into the mic, my voice calm, almost bored. You're up late with Eliza? Got something to sell? Any accidents on Route 18? And most importantly, anyone got a story to tell? The phones lit up like fireflies. The first caller was harmless, some guy trying to sell his '98 Civic that runs fine except when it don't. He rambled about the tape deck and the melted Garfield stuck to the dash. Classic. The second call though? That one made my skin crawl. A woman, shaky voice, said someone was standing outside her window. Just standing. Not moving, not doing anything, just watching. I offered to call someone, but the line cut off before she answered. I swallowed hard, threw on a blues track, let the low guitar hum wash the static out of the room. Then it happened. No ring, just a red light blinking steady. I picked it up. WTRX, you're on the air, got a story to share? Silence. Then a voice. I'm the Midnight Man. Chills. Real ones. Like someone cracked the window open in January. He started talking, no greeting, no hesitation, just slid straight into the story. This story is for you, Eliza. I froze. He told a story about a girl who left a big city, lost her shine, came back to a town she hated, took a job in a station that smelled like broken dreams, sat in a booth just like this one, took calls, played music, listened to stories. My skin went cold. Then he said her first night went smooth, too smooth, but in the morning she found her car, tires slashed like someone wanted her to stay. He paused, breathing soft in the silence. Thank you for your time. Click. Gone. I stared at the mic, heart thudding, my fingers white-knuckled around the volume fader. It couldn't be real. No one knew I was working here. Hell, I hadn't even posted about it, had barely unpacked at Mom's house. And yet, when my shift ended, I stepped outside, the early light just creeping over the trees, walked to my car, and there it was. Front left tire, slashed clean, deep, precise. I didn't scream, didn't cry. I just stood there in the gravel, staring at the wound like it was a sentence already written. The Midnight Man hadn't told a story. He'd given me a warning. I didn't drive home that morning, not because I was scared. I mean, okay, maybe a little, but mostly because I physically couldn't. The tire was a goner, a deep, surgical-looking gash that leaked rubbery shreds onto the gravel like someone had carved a smile into it. I walked instead, 4 blocks, 38 minutes, 1 blister. The whole way, I kept glancing over my shoulder like I expected him to be there, the Midnight Man. Tucked behind a tree, leaning against a lamppost, just watching with that smooth, snake oil voice curling out of the shadows. He wasn't. Of course he wasn't. But that didn't stop the cold that crept beneath my coat, or the feeling that my name wasn't entirely mine anymore. That night, I asked Brandon. He'd just arrived for his shift, groggy and disheveled, his hair doing this thing where it looked like a bird had tried to nest in it and gave up halfway through. He was pouring burnt coffee into his mug. Black, no sugar, no cream, the drink of people who no longer care about joy, when I stopped in the doorway of the break room. Hey, I said. He looked up, eyes puffy. Hey. I hesitated, then dropped the bomb. Who is the Midnight Man? Brandon froze mid-sip, lowered the mug like it had turned into acid. You mean, he called? Yeah, I said. Told a story, about me. Said my tire would be slashed. It was. He winced, like the words themselves hurt. Then he sat on the edge of the desk and looked at me in a way I didn't like he was about to explain cancer to a kid. He's been calling the station since I was in high school, he said. Probably longer. Doesn't always call. Sometimes it's weeks, months. But when he does, he looked me dead in the eye. You listen, always. But what is he? I asked. Like a creep with an internet connection and a lot of free time? Brandon shook his head slowly. No. He knows things, stuff he shouldn't, stuff no one should. And if someone ignores the warning or cuts him off, that's when it all goes sideways. People get hurt. I didn't have a clever comeback for that, I just nodded and left. The next few nights were quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that makes you nervous to breathe too loud. I spun records, took calls, gave weather updates no one cared about. One guy called in to report a raccoon that kept stealing his recycling. Another wanted to hear a song that didn't exist. Normal weird stuff. No Midnight Man. But on the 4th night, the line blinked red. My breath caught before I even picked up. I knew it was him. WTRX, I said, keeping my voice calm. You're on the air. He didn't waste time. Tonight's story is about a man, he said, voice low and level. Lives on Hemlock Drive, drives a Chevy, drinks beer from a red mug his daughter made him in 2nd grade. I stiffened. I knew that guy. Joe Donnelly. Ran the hardware store. Nice enough, but the kind of man who called women Missy and said it like a slur. Tonight, he goes to the woods behind his property, the Midnight Man continued. Takes his dog, loses the trail, something finds him instead. I swallowed. When he comes back, it's not him anymore. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It had weight, like breath before a scream. Then, thank you for your time, click. The line went dead. I checked the news the next morning. Nothing. But 2 days later, there it was. Front page of the Whitetail Weekly. Local man hospitalized after wandering forest. Claims voices called him home. Joe Donnelly, in a psych ward, said he'd heard something in the woods. Said it told him to dig. When they found him, his hands were torn raw, fingernails missing. He'd dug a 6-foot hole behind his tool shed. Empty. The next call came 2 nights later. A woman, sobbing so softly I could barely make it out beneath the static. She says she doesn't believe in monsters, the Midnight Man said. But her daughter keeps drawing something on the walls. A man with no face and too many hands. She thinks it's just imagination. He paused. It's not. That was it. I Googled everything I could about the family. I didn't find anything. Not at first, but a week later the girl's name showed up in the obituaries. Layla Chapman, age 7, cause of death, heart failure, 7 years old. I started keeping a notebook. A black spiral one I found in the archives room, stuffed between Elvis and Fleetwood Mac. I filled it with names, dates, details. Cross-referenced them against newspapers, social media, police logs. And every time, every damn time, the stories came true. Didn't matter how weird, how impossible. A man gets lost in his own backyard and comes back broken. A child draws monsters and dies of a heart condition no one knew she had. A woman swears her dog sees ghosts, then dies in her sleep. All real, all true. And I was there for every single one. The station didn't feel safe anymore. It felt like a confession booth. And I wasn't a DJ, I was a witness. Then one night, the Midnight Man didn't tell a story. Not exactly. This one, he said, is not for you, Eliza. That should have made me feel better. It's about a man named Jacob. Owns the bakery on Larkspur. His wife's been seeing someone else. He found out. She won't wake up. I sat there, gripping the mic stand. She used to hum when she baked. But not last night. Then that familiar sign-off, thank you for your time. Click. The next morning I made the mistake of walking past Larkspur. Yellow tape, flashing lights, a black body bag being wheeled out of Wheeler's Breads and Buns. Jacob stood in the doorway, white with flour and something darker. I didn't need confirmation. It was all real, every word of it. The Midnight Man wasn't telling ghost stories. He was reading the future, and I was the only one listening. I used to think the Midnight Man's stories were the scariest part of this job. Turns out, I was wrong. It's what happens after he hangs up that gets you. The silence, the knowing, the waiting. After the Jacob call, after I saw the bakery taped off and the body wheeled out like a half-remembered nightmare, I didn't go straight home. I wandered around town like a ghost. Sat at the diner for 2 hours nursing a cup of tea I didn't want. Watched people go about their lives, smiling, chatting, breathing like the world wasn't quietly rotting at the edges. They didn't know. They had no idea. But I did. And that made me dangerous. Or maybe just alone. I stopped sleeping, started living in this weird twilight haze, half awake, half ready for the next red light to blink. I'd walk into the station, flip the switches, cue the records, and wait for the stories to pour in like black syrup. And every night, I prayed that I wouldn't recognize the names. But then, one night, I did, and it wasn't a warning, it was something worse. It started like all the others. Midnight ticked in, the air turned heavy, the red light blinked. I didn't even say the station name anymore, just answered and braced for impact. His voice came through, smooth and steady. Tonight's story is not for Eliza. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. Then he continued, it's about someone who cares about her. My skin prickled. Someone who watches her walk home every morning, wonders if she's slept, listens when she talks, even when she thinks she's just being funny. Someone who cares more than she knows. I sat frozen, fingers curled tight around my coffee cup. He was talking about someone real, not a character, not a symbol, someone close. Maybe, he said softly, she should let him. Maybe she should let someone care again. Then, the usual sign-off, "Thank you for your time, Eliza." Click. I didn't move for a full minute. Not even to breathe. Because suddenly, I couldn't stop seeing it. The coffee Brandon brought me every night, always with the perfect amount of creamer. The vending machine always stocked with my favorite chips. The way he left the booth clean. The mic levels set just the way I liked them. The little notes on the soundboard that read, "You've got this," or "Don't let the static win." He offered to fix my tire. Multiple times, said he had a jack and a spare and knew how to use both. I hadn't told anyone about the tire, except him, and the Midnight Man. I started watching him closer, not in a cute, butterflies in the stomach way, more like a CSI Crush Edition kind of way. Brandon was kind, thoughtful, safe. Too safe, maybe. He was the kind of guy who always double-checked the door locks and offered to carry your bag and asked if you'd eaten. Which, under normal circumstances, would be sweet. It felt like a trap I'd walked into with my eyes closed. Still, I tried to ignore it. Pretend it was fine, that I was just spiraling from sleep deprivation and too much late-night doom radio. Until he asked me out. It was casual, like we were two normal coworkers in a normal town that didn't have a psychic death line. "Hey," he said, leaning on the doorway of the booth, "you want to grab a bite after your shift? There's this diner that does waffles so greasy, I think they're technically illegal." I panicked. "Oh, I'm sick," I blurted. "Think I caught something? Maybe next time?" There wasn't going to be a next time. Not with this energy radiating off him like a space heater. He didn't seem bothered, just nodded, smiled a little too long, and walked off. But the next night? He asked again. Then again. Each time I dodged it. Said I had errands. Said I was visiting an old friend from high school. I wasn't. Said my cousin needed me to dog sit. I don't even have a cousin. The lies made my stomach twist tighter every time. But I didn't know what else to do. And then the call came. Midnight. Red light. Click. "Eliza," the Midnight Man said. His voice didn't sound calm anymore. It sounded disappointed. "Still not listening, huh?" My heart hiccuped. "She should go on the date," he said, flat and final. "Because she really, really doesn't want to know what happens if she doesn't." Click. Silence. Brandon changed after that. It was subtle at first. Less casual, more persistent, more desperate. He started showing up at weird times. Like at the cafe across from the station while I grabbed my usual black coffee. Oh look, there he was, acting surprised to see me. Again. One time, I walked out to my car and he was just standing there, holding a gas can. "I thought maybe you forgot to fill up," he said with a too-wide smile. He left little gifts, a keychain, a mixed CD, a handwritten list of his favorite horror movies for radio inspiration. Then came the flowers. Big, clumsy bouquets of sunflowers and lilies stuffed into old soup cans or fast food cups like he'd run out of vases and patience. I tried to be polite, smiled when I could, thanked him, but the truth was screaming under my skin. I didn't like him like that. I never had. And I had to tell him. So I did. One quiet afternoon, before my shift, I pulled him into the supply closet, the one that smelled like dust and lemon cleaner and secrets no one wanted to name. "I need to say something," I told him, my voice soft but firm. He looked at me, already crumbling. I hated that part. "I'm sorry, Brandon. I don't feel the same way. I don't want to lead you on. You've been kind and I appreciate it, but I can't return it." He didn't say anything, just stood there. Eyes glassy, like I'd hit him without lifting a hand, then tears. But not the kind I expected. Not heartbreak, terror. His voice came out hoarse, broken. "He wants us to," he whispered. I blinked. "What?" He took a step closer. His whole body shook. "The Midnight Man, he told me, he showed me. We have to follow the story." "No, Brandon. He said if we don't, something bad will happen. He said it's already written." I tried to stay calm, steady. "Brandon, that's not how this works. We still have choices. You don't have to." I don't know what to do. His voice cracked like something inside him had snapped. I looked at him and didn't see a man anymore. I saw a ticking clock. He stepped back, wiped his eyes, then turned and left. He shoved the flowers he was holding, some wild bundle of carnations and baby's breath, into the trash can by the front door. And right before he disappeared into the night, he turned back. His voice was low, hollow. "I'm sorry for what's coming next." That night, I shook so bad I had to grip the soundboard with both hands just to keep from falling apart. And of course, at exactly midnight, the line blinked red. I stared at it, hand hovering over the receiver, already knowing who it was. My brain whispered, "Don't answer," while my fingers moved on their own. Picked it up, pressed it to my ear. "Eliza." His voice slid through the line like a knife made of velvet. Smooth, soft, sharp. "Tonight's story is about a man." I didn't speak, didn't breathe. A man who loved a woman who did not love him back. My chest tightened. No, no, no. He became so consumed, so hollowed out by her absence, that he had no choice. I reached for the mute switch. My fingers trembled. He took his own life. I slammed it, cut the mic, killed the volume, shut off the line like it was burning me. The studio filled with dead air, and for the first time, it really lived up to the name. I fumbled through the playlist, queued up something soft, Billie Holiday or maybe Miles Davis, I don't even remember, and shoved the fader up. My heart pounded like it wanted out of my chest. I grabbed my phone, dialed Brandon, voicemail, dialed again. Still nothing. I tried to tell myself it was fine. Maybe he was asleep. Maybe his phone was off. Maybe he's already gone, whispered a voice I didn't want to hear. I couldn't leave the station. I was the only one on duty, and part of me knew that if I stepped outside, I'd miss my only chance to stop this. So I did the only thing I could. I called the police. My voice was thin, shaky. I told them I had a coworker, Brandon. He was acting strange. He'd said some things. I was worried. Really, really worried. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Too long. Then the dispatcher spoke. "We know." That stopped me cold. "What do you mean, you know?" Another pause. "Because it's already been told." Brandon was gone. They found him the next morning. Hung himself in the maintenance shed behind the station. The same place he used to sneak smoke breaks. The place he'd shown me how to reroute a fried mic cable, grinning like a kid who just hacked the Matrix. Now he was just gone. No note. No explanation. Just a rope, a chair, and silence. I didn't cry. Not at first. I sat in the break room staring at the vending machine like it could offer me something that would make any of it make sense. I kept expecting him to walk through the door, coffee in hand, mumbling about a broken mic cable or the fact that we were out of powdered creamer again. But the booth stayed cold, the coffee stayed untouched, and the on-air sign buzzed alone. I covered his shifts, not because anyone asked me to, but because I couldn't stand the idea of someone else being in that room. Someone else hearing the calls. Someone else listening to the Midnight Man. That was my burden now. Mine to carry. Mine to survive. Besides, I didn't know what else to do. If I went home, all I'd hear was static. The Midnight Man didn't call for a week. 7 days of regular calls, car trouble, classified ads, a guy who swore he saw Bigfoot behind the diner. Nothing unusual, nothing that made my stomach twist. And somehow that was worse, because the silence meant he was watching, waiting. And when he finally did call, it wasn't a story, it was a threat. The line blinked red. Midnight sharp. I picked up slowly, every part of me heavy and hollow. The ones who don't listen don't get a happy ending. His voice was colder now, sharper. He didn't wait. The city girl thinks she's better than everyone else. But she isn't. She's driving home from her last shift, and she crashes. Into a tree. No name, no place, but I knew. The tree. The one on the curve just outside town. The one I passed every morning, headlights sweeping over its twisted branches like skeletal fingers. It was waiting for me. And now, so was the story. No thank you for your time, no click, just the sound of my own breath shaking in the receiver. Then the line went dead. I sat in the booth, headphones around my neck, mic light off, the on-air sign flickering against the glass like it was nervous too. I couldn't move, couldn't blink. He'd said it was my last shift, that I'd crash. It was written. I tried to laugh, like maybe I could pretend it didn't mean anything, but the laugh got stuck in my throat. I queued up a playlist, classic tracks, mellow ones, just enough to carry me through the end of the shift without thinking. At sunrise I stood, turned off the board, shut down the monitors, flipped every switch like I was preparing a body for burial. Then I walked to the door. My car sat in the lot, under the same buzzing street lamp. The keys were in my pocket. I could walk. Call someone, stay, but I didn't. My hand reached for the handle like it had its own will. My fingers closed around the key, and I got in. Tears blurred the windshield before I even started the engine. "I'm not doing this," I whispered, but I was. Because deep down I knew I had broken the rule. And now the story was going to end exactly the way he told it.